Hello, and welcome to a new episode of the Sox Machine Podcast, part of the Foul Territory Network. I'm your host, Josh Nelson, and in this episode, we'll be recapping the Chicago White Sox winning another road series, this time against the Texas Rangers. They are 8-5 in their last 13 road games, and we'll be looking at the White Sox offensive heroes in this series. And also take a look around the American League Centrals. The Chicago White Sox are still in first place, and it is a Texas two-step for the White Sox. They finished one series in Arlington. They get a day off on Thursday, and now the Chicago White Sox come home to face the Houston Astros. And joining me in this episode to recap everything that happened in Arlington and take a look as the White Sox come home to face the Houston Astros is Sox Machine's beat reporter James Fegan and managing editor Jim Margulis. And hello, gents. Welcome to the show. And while there's a lot of positivity with the White Sox, season high, 7 games above 500, still in first place, even past game 100. There is some concerning news. And the one game that the White Sox lost was a butt kicking. And unfortunately, it came with Noah Schultz on the mound. And against the Rangers, Noah Schultz just went 3 2/3 innings. He allowed 11 hits, 5 earned runs. Good news, he didn't walk anyone. He struck out 2, but he threw 80 pitches and couldn't get through the 4th inning and was pretty hittable. And in this season now for Noah Schultz, it's 11 starts. It's 56 2/3 innings. He's got a 3-7 record. It's 29 walks to 49 strikeouts, but it's an earned run average that's still above 6. And as I mentioned, the Chicago White Sox are still in first place. But we've been talking about like the White Sox need to add starting pitching to help out with their rotation. And now, James, they're trying to balance. Like, I understand at the beginning part of the season, their game plan in April, let's call up Noah Schultz because this is a development season. They weren't expecting to be contending. You are contending. And I can see where it's difficult to balance. Like, and the question out there right now is, should the White Sox demote Noah Schultz because it just looks like he's overmatched right now in the major league level? How could you see the White Sox trying to balance one, still trying to win the AL Central, but two, not having to give up every fifth start because Noah Schultz is learning on the job?
Uh, Probably by finding a different fifth starter, or at least cycling one in for a moment. At least like at this point, I mean, it's not hard to say like who's the solution. Like if you added someone to the deadline right now, like you're obviously being able to piece together effective Eric Fetty starts, even while like being really strict with him being 2 times to the order more easily than you're sequencing Noah Schultz starts because you can't even do like kind of really the lefty opener thing with him as easily, and you're not really seeing lineups dramatically flipped to accommodate the fact that he's left. Some of it, but it's just not the same dynamic. Like his slider, like if we're breaking down like what Noah Schultz was from like a scouting perspective, like there's a lot of things to it, but like you get these like very cut and dry grades on pitches, and one of them was like 70 grade slider, 80 grade slider, like best pitch in the minors, like type of reputation. And it was a non factor for him um, throughout his most recent start. And it's been something that's been inconsistent throughout, or there's been stretches where he really only has like the bigger version that can work against lefties, but he hasn't been able to really master like the sharper, tighter versions against whiffs against righties. Like there's other issues in play, like obviously he's had a lot of starts that's been impacted by like poor control, and you wonder like what's up there. And his fastball is definitely like the sinker has been trending to be pretty hittable for a while. And if starts there, he's definitely had spates of being really effective popping in the four seamer sometimes, but it doesn't have like its own independent metrics. So once like teams kind of game plan around it, it starts to lose a lot of steam really quickly. It's more like this effective little accent when the rest of his arsenal is working, or just inconsistent with other pitches. But like, if I was given like the simplest like 2 line explanation, like Noah Schultz is known for having a great slider, he hasn't had a great slider. So unless you have kind of like this plan for how he's going to get that out, and certainly that was what he's working on during his bullpens right before he went on his rehab stint and in his rehab stint, and it's supposed to be something that's been around the corner. Like, why would you be sending him out there otherwise? But until like it's in place, then that's kind of like, the big thing with him. It's not like he needs that to be effective on a given start, but as far as like him becoming a guy who's a reliable contributor to do that without having that thing in working order, like this big master strength, like even as he was coming up, like I remember right ups Eric Longenhagen was doing it like, hey, there's a lot of things that are unrefined here, but he has kind of like an unhittable pitch, and that kind of carries him through a lot of outings. Not having that little safety valve against the hardest hit, like most difficult hitters he's ever dealt with, like his contact rate against him is like over 80% right now. Like the contact rates for him look like one of your better hitters in majors. It's near 90% in zone, it's near 80% overall, and it's not too much chase. So like with it's looking that way, it's not like, oh, I'm looking at the most recent David Sandlin start and he's for sure going to be, jump in and be more reliable. Maybe like it certainly looks closer visually to what his full arsenal is supposed to look like. Does Shane Smith get consistent and lock that in? Maybe. I don't know. Do you find someone in the deadline given now this catching need that we've have spent so much time talking about? I don't know how this episode's getting pasted together, but obviously Kyle Teal's hurt. That's another thing too. It becomes a question like how much resources you have to have this big starter upgrade, and if you do, is it about like, are you trying to turn over the back two slots of your rotation, or just address this immediate need with Schultz? I think you'd rather have Schultz obviously mature into what you hope is going to be one of the better starters in your rotation. But like right now, the big thing that makes him so exceptional, like we can point to that and see that's not working order. There's other things that obviously can tighten up and get better, but like until that's kind of resolved, I don't know where you go from here. So Jim can probably finish out my point, hopefully.
Well, is thinking about Schultz and the way you're describing him, kind of going between fastballs and not having his best defining breaking pitch working for him, is a fair comp, or at least a comp to think about. Is he a left-handed Jonathan Cannon right now?
I guess like in the sense of like when it's not working, but you could also ask like, did Cannon ever like have the out pitch that it seemed more like he's going to have the seam shifted change up to certain to lefties. He's going to have the sweeper going to righties, and he's going to work the different fastball shapes. And so like I guess it's a little similar in terms of like them floundering looks a bit because it's a lot of like different shapes that aren't enough distinct enough to like get swings and misses or conclude at bats easily in a way where it's just like too many opportunities for like Tuesday night just being dinked and dunked to death because you can't end these at bats that get really deep when you're not getting early weak contact. So similar, but obviously you want this slider to become this overwhelming thing in the way that like Cannon was always going to be like this stitch of like different methods, different attacks that to make it work. Whereas Schultz is supposed to have that, but it's also supposed to have the one right tool that was always correct. And until that's in working order, you're not going to have the high ceiling guy that you're aspiring to. So where does that occur? Does that occur in work in AAA? Does that occur in majors? Does that rely on more health and trust in the knee? Is that something that's accessible this year? Remains to be seen.
It's a very popular topic right now in social media, Jim, regarding Noah Schultz. Many, and I guess you could put me in this boat right now until I saw on the minor keys on how David Sandlin threw. This does become a repeatable question and topic regarding the White Sox. If you demote Noah Schultz, who are you replacing him with? Maybe it is David Sandlin, but should the White Sox, after this start against the Texas Rangers and looking ahead, next projected start for Schultz is the New York Yankees, doesn't get any easier. Should the White Sox send Schultz back to Charlotte?
Not yet. I mean, I could see that, if they did, I would understand why, but I think, his start against the Athletics was fine. So he hasn't had two bad starts in a row to where you're saying like this doesn't work. Like it didn't work against Texas. But there were a couple of poorly hit balls that landed for key hits to where like if they find gloves, maybe you can get through five. It's a different conversation, even if it's like an unimpressive five. But with one start left until the deadline basically for him, without anybody currently crushing in Charlotte, like Sandlin's been fine, but I think he has his weaknesses right now to where I'd feel like you're replacing Schultz with kind of a similar type pitcher. Mason Adams has been throwing mostly well, although he's a kitchen sink righty who doesn't have necessarily one out pitch. So you might be throwing him to the same kind of debate after a couple starts. They have a couple guys they can go to, but I think he's probably earned enough leeway to have one more start, see what the trade deadline offers, and see if that displaces him from the rotation. And then after that, if like say the trade deadline comes and goes and they haven't displaced him, or another injury pops up to where like they still might need Schultz in the rotation or somebody in that spot, then maybe have the discussion about him or Sandlin or Mason Adams or whoever. But it's frustrating to watch, and certainly with the amount of hype that he had, I think there is a little bit of fatigue or disenchantment setting in of just like, maybe this guy isn't that good. But the options behind him aren't all that compelling right now to where like, I'll give Schultz one more turn and then see what happens.
It is funny in how this season has played out, and where very positive, big surprises on the position player side. But Noah Schultz and Hagen Smith, and I guess we could throw Tanner McDougal, with how excited we were and how well he was throwing in spring training, this season just hasn't panned out for those three pitchers. I don't want to say, oh my gosh, the entire pitching development program for the White Sox is in disarray. I'm not saying that at all. It's just kind of funny to me, the yin and yang of this season for the White Sox, where, man, it would have been great if Noah Schultz and Hagen Smith performed like the frontline starters that we hope they can still be. On a promotional side, as James teed it up for me, you could watch our episode regarding Kyle Teal's impact on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/soxmachine. We spent quite a bit of time talking about that specific injury and the impact. Even had our friend Eric Kratz over from Foul Territory join us and give us his insight as a backup catcher and being a catcher in the major leagues, and the situation for both Kyle Teal and the Chicago White Sox. So if you haven't got a chance to watch or listen to that episode, we dedicated an entire podcast on the injury for Kyle Teal. So we'll see what the White Sox do, and we'll see if they still have Noah Schultz start against the New York Yankees. But I guess quickly, as far as a roundtable, if the White Sox do make a trade in the upcoming days in the starting rotation, it's not so much of trying to find someone better than Eric Fetty and an opener. It's now thinking, how can we buy time to send Noah Schultz to Charlotte? Is that what we're thinking, Jim?
Yeah, probably just because of options. Just because Fetty is fine. I don't think you want two Fettys in the rotation, as we kind of saw with Fetty going 4 and then Schultz not getting to 4 and then Anthony K going 5. It's a lot of short starts in a row. So I think you can only have one of those opener 2 times through type pitchers before things start getting hairy. So I think the hope is the White Sox find somebody who can handle his own start day without needing assistance, and just pushes everybody down to where maybe even like K would be 4th and Fetty would be 5th and Schultz would be down in Charlotte. Would probably be like the ideal outcome based on where you think the White Sox are shopping.
If you're watching us, you already know we're wearing Mack Weldon right now as we talk about a great brand that makes things so comfortable and easy to wear. But if you're listening to the show, let me tell you a little bit more about Mack Weldon with my friend Eric Kratz.
Yeah, it's comfortable. It's light. It's summertime right now. For me, though, they cater to what I need, tall clothes. Normally when I buy tall clothes, it's like something that's cumbersome and boxy. It still fits incredibly well, super light, perfect for the summertime. They got me all covered.
Comfortable performance material can be yours. Mack Weldon is the spot. Don't sweat the heat this summer. Feel as effortlessly cool as you look with Mack Weldon. Go to mackweldon.com and get 20% off your first order of $125 or more with promo code FOUL. That's MACKWELDON.com, code FOUL.
There are over 8 million drivers in the state of Illinois. With that many people on the road, accidents are bound to occur. I'm attorney Howard Ankin, and if you or someone you care about has been involved in an auto, rideshare, or trucking accident, I'm here to help.
He has your number in his phone!
Call my office for a free consultation at 312-6million. I'm here when you need me. Injury law made personal, that's Ankin Law.
Well, let's talk about something positive for the Chicago White Sox, other than Noah Schultz, which that was a butt whooping loss. But again, the White Sox ended up winning the series against the Texas Rangers. They won 2 out of 3 in this road trip going to Toronto and Texas after the All-Star break. For a very young team, there was some concern on how they would do, especially after they swept the Athletics and there was some time off, and they responded very well. If you take a look at the last 4 road series for the White Sox, they are 3-0-1. That one being the 4-game split in Cleveland. But they are 8-5 in their last 13 road games. And what really helped for the Chicago White Sox offensively are the offensive heroes for this series. Miguel Vargas went 4 for 14. He had 3 doubles this series and drove in 2 RBIs. Andrew Benintendi, 3 for 10. But the vet had 5 RBIs in this series, and give it up for Chase Meidroth. Chase Meidroth had a 4-hit game in Wednesday's victory, and he also drove in 2 RBIs for the Chicago White Sox. And on the offensive front for the White Sox, James, let's start with Chase Meidroth and his success on Wednesday night. I know that I pointed out as far as his struggles with runners in scoring position. He had 2 hits on Wednesday with runners in scoring position. We're going to have an upcoming podcast episode with White Sox director of hitting, Ryan Fuller. And again, it's all about decisions, contact, and damage for the Chicago White Sox. Those are the 3 pillars of their hitting program. And I know the White Sox want their hitters to focus on creating as much damage as possible. But I do wonder, with runners in scoring position, is it okay if Chase Meidroth takes a less is more and focuses on better contact in those situations to help out the White Sox offense, James?
Well, to further spoil our episode, when we asked Ryan Fuller about what he feels about two-strike approach, which I think kind of plays into the same thing you're talking about with runners in scoring position situations where, a single do it, is that they're less opposed to having a contact or shoot the ball the other way type of approach. It's more that they don't want these physical sacrifices in your swing of like, let's dampen your impact for the sake of contact in its own right. They don't believe in just touch it as a way of like being successful, and that's really like with the way defenses are like, that's not necessarily a run scoring plan to just put the ball in play if it's not, if it's 2 outs or if it's a runner on second, like or even just like certain runners on the contact play. We've certainly seen that blow up sometimes. So I don't think, one, like with Chase Meidroth, like obviously we've seen him be this contact version of himself where he's very dedicated to slapping the ball the other way or kind of hitting low line drives. This is not like new to him in some way where that's not already in his bag. And I think like his contact rate's been kind of trending up this month already in a way that like he's already kind of referenced like the level of swing and miss spiking his game this season. He wanted to do more damage, but he's been talking about trying to see it deeper and not being as obsessed with catching the ball up front. So certainly in those situations where he has opportunity to drive in runs while doing it, I think he's already pretty geared to do that in some way. But also like the White Sox methodology is not like swing. While there's certainly probably more damage oriented than certainly past iterations and what they preach and what they want to see other offense as a whole. They are very much like, we want to see some hitability. Want to see you like be able to adjust your approach or adjust what part of the field you're like coming for, or show some adjustability in your swing. Not necessarily in like a let's spread super out and like take your legs out of it, but let's like maybe see some different shapes or impact levels, or more of a slower bat control type swing than your best bat speed for a meatball in the zone, which is like the other side of what they preach. And sometimes it's more obvious than other times when I'm stalling my answer to look up something on Fangraphs. But like, yes, my drops are like, his contact rates are like all trending way up from the year over the course of July. He was like 88% overall in July going into Wednesday night, where I'm thinking he probably boosted it further from that, whereas he was at 82 for like the entire year, and you're seeing like a lot more, or he was like under 92 zone, under 90% zone contact for the year, and now he's back up over near 92 and probably over it now. You've been seeing him kind of like get back to a little bit more of the contact oriented style of his last year, just kind of in response to the way you're struggling. even more than situationally for a while. And this game was definitely emblematic of like why it's good to have offensive diversification. It's very hard to hit a home run in that like massive space prison they built out there. Having that ability to win these types of games on offense is useful there. And there are going to be series where like Mooney doesn't hit a home run in every game, like because you're playing in Sacramento, and they showed the ability of turning to guys who can win those type of games.
But to Murakami, his credit, he is getting on base. He is drawing the walks again for the White Sox and giving Miguel Vargas and Colson Montgomery and the rest of the lineup somebody on base to have some bats with. So the White Sox offensively, not a great Tuesday at all, but Monday was fantastic. It was very fun. And of course, they're able to hold off the Texas Rangers on Wednesday. And in that Wednesday victory, Jim, Andrew Benintendi had the other 2 RBIs. And as I mentioned, he had 5 RBIs in this series. And I don't think, no matter how this season ends, maybe unless Andrew Benintendi hits a walk-off home run in the World Series to help win a game for the White Sox, Jim, that he's going to be able to redeem what the first few years of his tenure with the White Sox and how that went. But is he, I guess, starting to inch closer to being in the good graces of White Sox fans with how he's been performing in the role that the White Sox have kind of carved for him, being this veteran DH platooning with Randall Grichuk?
I think you're seeing professionalism win out. I think when it comes to Benintendi, I think in multiple regards, like in terms of he's got a 357 average with the runners in scoring position. I mean, part of that is padded or boosted by a very aggressive pinch hitting strategy for him and having Randall Grichuk coming in as the right-handed component. So he's not in unfavorable matchups a lot of the times when he has runners in scoring position, but he's cashing in a lot of those opportunities when he gets them. You have his kind of willingness to handle DH most of the time and play very little outfield and kind of accept that the metrics, the feeling, whether you're using the eye test or whether you're using StatCast, like wasn't good out there in left field. And so the White Sox have mitigated that by having other guys stand out there. And he's accepted that. He's accepted being a platoon guy, even though, he probably has, based on the interviews that we've had, that James has talked to him about when it comes to his general displeasure with how he's played as a White Sox. He's not trying to salvage it himself or say like, I can dig myself out of this hole, or just if I get all the at-bats that this contract has me deserve, then I should be able to play myself out of it. Like he's handling everything gracefully, and I think he's producing well enough. I think it's funny watching Vargas and Meidroth and Benintendi. Like it was a win for the hit tools, I think, this series. And with Meidroth and Benintendi, it's a win for the guys that like White Sox fans seem to want to replace as quickly as possible, even though like nothing is shoving them out of their current roles. Like Benintendi could theoretically be not very useful as a DH, if Kyle Teal were healthy, if Edgar Caro were producing, if Pereira and Hayes and Grichuk were all productive at the same time, and Murakami and everything like that. But like they haven't been, and he's been hitting well enough the whole time. He's been an average bat with an ability to shape his swing when situations demand it. He is producing well enough to earn his keep. And so like, you can't just, just dismiss him for nothing, discard him because he's producing. Maybe after the season, you look around the league and say like, well, does any team want to take on part of the salary and make better use of him? But right now that is not that season, and he's doing well enough. So if this team gets to the postseason and Benintendi is being an average bat who is favorably deployed to make the best use of it, and has somebody, whether it's Grichuk or Austin Hayes, if he comes back, or Pereira, whoever, helping to share the playing time there, and he handles it well, like I don't see any reason why fans should hold the contract against him. I kind of write that off as a problem with the previous administration and just the kind of decisions that they painted themselves into a corner with in terms of how what kind of player they wanted and what they were willing to spend and how they couldn't trade themselves out of the roster that they'd built. And then Benintendi was the guy that they could afford and just didn't work out. But I think this is a different enough stage, a distinct enough situation to where if you treat him as like a Grichuk, as like a veteran outfielder who is a left-handed bat that needs right-handed help, but we can give it to him, and you set aside what they paid or the obligation, then he's doing his job well enough. And, he's part of the reason why the White Sox offense is among the league's better ones.
And really came through again for the White Sox on Wednesday. Some big RBIs, he and Chase Meidroth. I have a feeling before the season is over that Andrew Benintendi is going to have one big moment in September that helps the White Sox make it to the postseason. And then everyone will just kind of look at each other and be like, you know what? It was worth it. The contract was worth it to have this moment. Like, I'm kind of rooting for that for Andrew Benintendi. He's been through
And I'm
a lot.
hoping we can snip this quote, just because like I was watching your GN Sports appearance, and they like reusing your best case scenario of the White Sox being over 500 and looking to add at the deadline. And so, yeah, I think keep laying down this optimism in a way that we can snip and replay after he does something big in September. Like I like what you're doing here.
When you lose enough steak dinner bets, Jim, at some point your luck has to swing back in your favor.
I'm personally just looking forward to like this big cathartic home run, and everyone like is gushing on social media and in person, and then getting post game, and Andrew Benintendi's like, yeah, looking for a good pitch to hit, put a good swing on it, good moment, good win for the boys, got to keep it going, and just
Nothing, no nutritional value.
12-year, won a World Series before, nice game, already kind of on his way out of its brain, and as he goes and processes it, ball player mode, and like is basically forgotten about it the next day. It's just it'll be fun to watch a circle of life.
Todd, Father, are you hitting some games this summer? What's the deal?
Oh, of course, and it's real simple. Scotty Braun, you know how it is. You go to SeatGeek and you can find any deal you want in any section you want. Even if the game's sold out, go to SeatGeek and you'll find something that you love, affordable for your family, that you can enjoy anywhere, anytime, at any ballpark and stadium you want. Enjoy it. It's the best opportunity to go see a beautiful game of baseball.
And that's the thing. You can be so last minute. SeatGeek is the official ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball. They have you covered for all of your baseball ticket needs the entire summer. They also have over 70,000 events on SeatGeek. That includes concerts, festivals, all kinds of sporting events. So go check it out right now, FT fam. The code is Territory10 for 10% off your next set of MLB tickets at SeatGeek. That's 10% off with promo code Territory10. Make sure you click the link in the description to download the app, and then the code automatically is added to your account so you can use it later.
For the White Sox, they now start a kind of a tricky 7-game homestand here. They've been playing very well at home, but the first 3 games this weekend are going to be against the Houston Astros. As the Astros this year, 49-54, the White Sox did a solid for them. As the Astros won their series against the Marlins, they've won their last 2 games, and with the White Sox winning their series against the Rangers, the Houston Astros are just 2 games back in the American League West. They are 3.5 games back of the American League wild card, so they're not out of it yet. They're 4-6 in the last 10 games. They are 24-27 this season away from Houston. Your pitching probables for this series, Friday night, 6:40 p.m. Central Time start. It'll be Spencer Arrighetti for the Houston Astros against Davis Martin for the Chicago White Sox. And game 2 of this series on Saturday night, 6:10 p.m. Central Time. It'll be Hunter Brown for the Astros against Sean Burke. We'll see if Sean Burke continues his heater that he's been on in the last couple of months. And then the final game on Sunday afternoon, this is a 1:10 p.m. Central Time start. It's Ronel Blanco for the Astros, who just returned, and it'll be Eric Fetty. We'll see if the White Sox decide to go with an opener for Eric Fetty, as Jim wrote an excellent feature about the opener situation, how the White Sox have been handling and been performing using an opener this season. Highly recommend reading that. And I bring this up, James, because Yordan Alvarez. So instead of asking you for a key of the series, I'm going to give you one. The White Sox have to figure out how to limit the impact that Yordan Alvarez has on this series, as Yordan leads the majors in home runs and RBIs. He's got 34 home runs and 77 RBIs now. What's the best way for the White Sox to deal with Yordan Alvarez in this series, James?
I was cycling through, kind of some prior examples from the episode of Homer at the Bat, and like ways that superstars have been felled by off the field means. I think the Steve Sachs route is most realistic for our modern age. Getting him pinned for like a series of unsolved murders upon his arrival to the city. Failing that, he is, at least entering Wednesday night only a 135 WRC plus against lefties, as opposed to over 200 against righties. So pretty cool that Anthony Kay and Noah Schultz won't face him at all. That wouldn't have helped either one. I guess like you do have 4 relievers in your bullpen for a reason. So opening for Eric Fetty, or just like if someone has a shorter start to give way to Chris Murphy because Yordan Alvarez is coming up, that would be a crazy way to attack it. Looking at the breakdown versus pitch type, he's only slugging 479 against off speed or changeups. Only a 310 xBVA, which sounds horrific, but also all his numbers against fastballs and breaking balls are so much better than that. So Davis Martin wants to flash a few kick changes. Certainly seems like the time for it. Sean Burke wants to dust that thing off. I know he's been mostly curveball against lefties, and it served him very well. But showing him a change surely can't hurt. Eric Fetty, what in his arsenal? Like the splitter hasn't been something he's turned to a lot. I don't. Maybe don't get too crazy there in terms
It's
of like
not sounding good.
doesn't have a pitch you barely used all season in this situation. Don't have someone on base. I think that's going to be the big thing. That was, Sean Burke's big thing about like facing the Athletics lineup when they were banged up into Nick Kurtz is like my main strategy was just having the bases empty for Soderstrom and Langoliers when they got up, and after that I'd probably be okay. Astros, certainly have some other bats that are worth worrying about in terms of Paredes and
Christian
I never know
Walker's
if
been doing pretty well.
Jeremy Pena is healthy. But yeah, Christian Walker. But I think Alvarez is such a tier above everybody that like really like whatever you can do to just like really drill down on like not having people in front of him whenever possible. I think that's probably going to be something that every starter is harping on in post-game interviews, even if that's like the analysis version of pitch good in terms of advice. It's there's nothing. He's a hitter. You're really without major flaws. It's going to be hard. I remember like what was it 2021? Garrett Crochet got like walked off on him on like a sweeper that he put like low and away, and Yordan Alvarez like ripped it for a walk-off double. He's like, man, that really sapped my confidence for a little while. I was like, Garrett, I think you got to shrug that one off. I don't think it's about you, buddy. I think he was able to with time, but he's kind of a hitter who really just confounds any game plan.
Well, I think that's excellent analysis for Yordan Alvarez, and I know Jim will always appreciate a Simpsons reference on the show. We'll see if the White Sox.
I was thinking Josh could set his house on fire maybe and see if Alvarez sees the smoke from the park and runs over to help out. Take one for the team, Josh.
Just a different camera that's still in the house that he has to go back in for.
Oh man,
the SD card.
Oh,
the Ronin.
So making sure nobody's on base when Yordan Alvarez is batting. That's a solid strategy, Jim. And maybe the White Sox do use multiple openers in this series, but what is a key for the White Sox in this series other than having to navigate the Yordan Alvarez situations in order for the White Sox to pick up another series win?
Yeah, Alvarez is the first place to start. And given that he's leading all Triple Crown categories, I know that Triple Crown is kind of doesn't maybe mean what it used to, but it's still a nice tidy way to say a hitter is doing a lot of damage in important situations. I'm all for like him having a highlight at the park, hopefully, in terms of fan anguish. It's not one that makes or breaks the game, but just something cool that happens. Like if he threatens where the goose used to be, that would be fun, just because it's nice to go to a ballpark and see a great player do a great thing. But setting that aside, I think this off day certainly helps. But then after that, I think, with 7 straight games, Astros, then Yankees, and then the Rays after that, I think it's incumbent on the front end of the rotation to start delivering some length and starts, because after going for 3 1/3 and then 5 for the series, like, you can go to Grant Taylor for a couple innings, you can go for Sean Newcomb for a couple innings. Like, you can do that and steal a game here or there. But I think if you're trying to win games against credible teams to very good teams, in the case of the Yankees and Rays being the 2 best teams in the American League, it does require, I think, a little bit more rest for the bullpen, or at least a little bit more novelty, to where they're not throwing 3 innings in a series. And that's the only way you can get by. So I think having Martin, having Burke come in and deliver some length, 6 innings, hopefully, would be, I think, a way to get the bullpen to be rested, in a sense where Will Venable has enough options to go after Alvarez the best that he can in late game situations that present themselves, or at the Yankees and Ben Rice, etc. As they go on. That's, I think, probably the biggest case, because I think if Burke and Martin, work shorter starts, then you have Fetty, and then you have Schultz maybe, then it kind of gets in the situation of like, oh, this is, you're kind of going through that Charlotte carousel of just need a fresh arm who's available.
The White Sox, at least on paper, in my opinion, have a deeper lineup than the Houston Astros. These are potentially tough righties the White Sox are facing this weekend. It'd be great if these left-handed batters continue to produce for the White Sox. We've seen a wide range of outcomes. We know they have the potential to put up double-digit runs, and we know that they can come up with some key hits, but we've seen some clunkers in the middle of the games where the offense just simply doesn't show up. So hopefully a little bit more consistency for the White Sox in this series against the Houston Astros. And I know we're all waiting for Munetaka Murakami to finally hit a home run, but I do see some good signs from him as far as the at-bats, still finding ways to draw walks, still being able to hit doubles, and being productive for the White Sox. I've got a feeling that a home run is coming soon for Murakami, and it'll get him on a hot streak. So if he can go toe-to-toe and match up with Yordan Alvarez with home runs this weekend, that'd be great.
Like, if you cover like home games, like if you're there long enough, you'll see like the visiting team, like they'll walk across the field and through like that gate that's in center field. That's like where they have to go through to like exit for wherever like their bus is. Like that area, like right beyond the fence where it's just like a tunnel through, there's plenty of room to put like a mystery spot or like kind of an endless falling pit for someone. Obviously, he still gets to play like the first game of the series if that happens. I was looking at the numbers, like Fetty's splitter change, and it's been getting like more whiffs than I probably gave it credit for. He's been using against lefties, so that's a tool he could use. But at the same time, he grew up in Vegas, so he's probably seen like a hypnosis act at some point. If he could get Yordan to like start clucking like a chicken, because based on like some things he's seen, why not throw kitchen sink at him? Like use the split change, but also the hypnosis at the sime time. Got to still strike the chicken out. Even if you do get that. So I think there are a lot of ideas to mine from that episode in general.
Well, it's very educational, not only entertaining, but great ideas from James that the White Sox can implement in trying to shut down Yordan Alvarez.
Yeah, Josh, I think arson is the simplest.
Arson is the simplest. Yeah, I'll just set my house
well,
on
like,
fire. One of my neighbors is trying to sell their house.
Are they flying in a day ahead of time? They have time to go out, get into a history debate at the bar that turns violent.
Sure. That will do it for this episode of the Sox Machine Podcast. If you guys have any other suggestions from the TV show The Simpsons and how the White Sox can handle Yordan Alvarez this weekend, please let us know in the comment section, either on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/SoxMachine or on SoxMachine.com. You can subscribe to the Sox Machine Podcast, the audio version, wherever you listen to podcasts, such as Spotify and Apple Music. And of course, this is now a video podcast, so you can watch the show at youtube.com/SoxMachine. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We just passed 3,000 subscribers, so thank you so much To everybody that recently subscribed to our channel, we greatly appreciate you. Follow us on social media. James will be at the stadium this weekend. So for all White Sox news, follow him at JR Fegan. You can follow us at Sox Machine on all the platforms. You can follow me at Sox Machine Josh, as we'll be having videos coming from the ballpark this weekend. I'll be uploading those on our YouTube channel as far as player interviews, manager interviews as well, pre and post game. And we'll see if Chris Getz talks to the media before this homestand. You can also help support Sox Machine by signing up to be a Sox Machine subscriber at soxmachine.com/products. Monthly plans typically start at $5, but we continue to run our sale as the Chicago White Sox are still a winning team. Your first month is just 53 cents. So sign up at soxmachine.com/products. Take advantage of that sale. It unlocks the comment section for you and also the ad-free version of the website. We have additional tiers of support to give you additional benefits, including some spots still remaining in our Veterans Committee that you can be part of the group chat and have direct access to us and pester us with questions, especially with the trade deadline coming up. So if you're interested and want to help out Sox Machine, go to soxmachine.com/products and sign up today. The Sox Machine podcast is a production of soxmachine.com. You're in for all things Chicago White Sox baseball and part of the Foul Territory Network. Alongside James Fegan and Jim Margulis, I'm Josh Nelson. Thanks for listening and watching.